So it happens to all of us. We have to design something traditional. That means base mold, chair mold, yeah. Because a lot of people like those things. Well, let's talk about it. Hi, welcome back to The Colorblind Architect Does Archicad, and today I'm going to be talking about interior finishes. We all need to do them as architects, especially on residences. If you're doing a single family home, people typically like seeing those 3D models that we present to our clients, and it can be really nice to have everything modeled in so they can kind of picture what the house is going to look like as they walk through. Now, what I'm showing on the screen is an example of an interior model where you've got the finished floor, the wall finish, the ceiling finish, and the chair rail, the crown molding and the base molding. Okay, so pretty simple. Well, the thing is in Archicad there's a few different ways you can do this, and that's what we're going to talk about. There's 3 different ways that I typically would use for putting in base mold or crown molding, and that's what I want to discuss. So first, let's talk about the ceilings. Ceilings typically, unless it's something fancy, I usually just paint the underside of the structure of the slab above for the floor above. It's simple enough, and on a single family home that's usually good enough. On the flooring, I'll typically actually model in a finished floor slab. This would be typically on a slab called the finished floor slab layer. As you can see in this particular layer set, I have that turned off. So I'm just going to turn that back on. In this house, this is actually a concrete house. And so concrete walls, concrete floors, so it's pretty nice. It's a pretty cool structural system, but it does tend to be pretty bland, so we need to add a little bit of warmth, friendliness to the home, and this particular client really likes traditional design. So this particular system that I'm showing right now is actually from the goodies. So if you download the goodies for Archicad, this is a great little tool set. One of the main things to remember with the goodies is you need to make sure to install it and make sure you also add the library, the accessories library. So when you go into your library manager, just make sure your accessories library for your version is loaded. So next, to do this, you're going to go into the floor plan mode, and because I've already done it on this study, I am going to select the home theater. I want to go ahead and put a base rail, a base molding and a crown molding, and just for the sake of argument, let's just go ahead and do a wainscot and a chair rail, just for fun. So in this case, you'll select the zone, make sure it's sized appropriately, that it goes to the interior finishes of the walls, and you're going to go to Design Extras, Interior Wizard, and create Room Accessories. Then you're going to select Wall Accessories, and on this, under the Accessories library, choose Moldings and Panel. And for this case, we're going to go with Base, Chair, and Crown Molding, just to go grab the whole entire thing. And then you can actually just scroll up and down to select which crown molding you want. In this case, I'm going to go with something a little bit more ornate. And then on the chair rail, this particular client, I know they like something looking a little bit more colonial, something a little bit more old style. And then the base mold, just going to scroll through and look for something that looks a little bit more appropriate for their style. It looks like I'm probably going to go with this funky one here. You can also adjust the heights, where you want things placed, And in this case, I think I'm going to make the chair rail just a little bit higher. Right now it's set at about 2'7". So I'm just going to pop that up to about 2'10". Get that up to the bottom of the windows. Then we're going to go to all parameters, and under surfaces, this is where you can adjust your finishes. A little word to the wise, also make sure that you've set your home story correctly and that you've also set your layer. Now, I'm going to be talking about the layers a little bit later, so for right now, just go ahead and click OK, and you can see that the wall accessory is set to moldings and panel. When we click OK, that's what actually executes the command, and as you can see, it now appears on the floor plan. And if we go back to our 3D view, you can see we're still looking at the studio. So I'm just going to do a little fly through, and as you can see, yeah, colors aren't quite right for the wainscot and the chair rail. So I'm going to go back to the floor plan, and I'm going to go ahead and select these finishes. Go to the settings, and then back to the materials. For the crown molding, that was set to oak. Chair strip, let's set that to oak. And the wainscot panel, I'm going to make that white to match the ceiling, just so that we have something to look at. And then we can go ahead and click on OK. So pretty simple. Now, this works great for a lot of different scenarios. It doesn't always work. In fact, when you have a great room, one of the things that I found with great rooms is this particular method doesn't work very well. So that's where I manually model in the moldings. So in this case, I've actually got a living room, a dining room, and a great room, and a pantry, and a hall, all connected without any doors. The interior wizard doesn't really work well in those kinds of situations. So this is where, let's go back to the layers, and let's take a look at one of the important features of Archicad, and that is the cleanup group. So this column right here, so when you look at your layer manager, you're probably aware of locking layers, turning them on and off, whether they're full or wireframe mode. This fourth column with these numbers, this is the cleanup group. What it does is it controls whether or not a layer actually joins with other objects within other layers. So in this case, we're going to go down to my walls layers, and I have an A walls exterior, A walls interior, but for trim work, I don't want those joining. So if I use it like a beam or a column or a wall for interior trim, I don't want it joining with the interior walls, because then it's going to create some really funky joins, and you'll see it like shooting through the wall, and it's really crazy. So this is where your layer states need to be saved with different numbers. So in this case, I have set interior trim to be on the cleanup group 4, and then you have to save that into your layer combinations. Once you save, if you're going to do this, you also need to go through every one of your layer combinations. Just make sure that you're not going to get some really weird stuff, like maybe on your foundation plan, all of a sudden you've got a wall trim layer shooting through your exterior your concrete foundation and making a weird joint. So you do need to double check these numbers, make sure that they all align with what you need. Again, same number, joins with same number. And this is all using the building materials, and the building material priorities, the cleanup priorities. So that's how that works. And of course my dog would start barking right during a video. Then we're going to go ahead and click OK. And now to create a base mold in this kind of scenario, what we're going to do is we're going to choose the wall. Now you can also use beams, but I've opted for walls on this one. And you're going to set your layer to your A-Walls interior trim, at least in my case, so that I get the right cleanup layer. We're going to change this to a profile wall and change the profile to a wood base. So I actually have a profile that I've drawn in that's called trim wood base that allows me to do that. Now in this case I can also set the finish material for it. I'm going to set this as oak because, as aforementioned, this is what the client likes. So now I'm going to go ahead and draw in this wall base. In this case I'm going to just go ahead and draw this into the master bath area. Now as you can see, you can swap which side of the origin line by hitting the letter P on the keyboard, and that way you get the right orientation. And we're just gonna finish this off at this corner since we have a cabinet block right here. Okay, now to illustrate what that's gonna look like, let's just go ahead and fly through to the bathroom, and you can see the base molding has now appeared. So pretty simple. Now the final way to do base molding or crown molding is a method that I rarely ever use, just because I don't find it as helpful. This is where you actually go into the object tools and same layer, interior trim, and you can actually go up to your regular Archicad library, and under woods and plastics, finish carpentry, there are actually moldings built into this. You can select any of these moldings. These ironically are actually the same moldings that you'll find in the interior wizard, but this is if you just need a piece and part, and it's pretty basic. You can size it this way, you can Command E or Control E to rotate. And you just position it up against the wall. If you need a mitered corner, you can zoom in this hot spot here, and actually I think on this one you have to go to the dimensions and change the miter angle right in here. So that's how that one works. So pretty simple. So this is how you can create interior moldings for your projects and make your space look a lot more realistic. And so back to the study, you can also see there's some cleanup issues there. Again, my preferred method is just manually using the complex profiles on a special layer, mainly because it gives me the most flexibility, and I can also do custom profiles and it ends up looking a lot nicer. Also, I can clean it up a little bit more manually. So hopefully this is helpful to you. Again, I'm the colorblind architect doing Archicad. Peace out.